Welcome to the Fall 2022 Meet the Candidates Forum sponsored by the Grant County Chamber of Commerce. I'm Jamie Baker, Executive Director of the Grant County Chamber, Economic Development and Tourism, and will be serving as the moderator for tonight's forum. There have been some changes in voting as well as voting locations, and here to give us an update is County Clerk Tabitha Clemens.
As the chair of the Grant County Board of Elections, it is our duty to execute the election to the best of our ability. And we want to thank the organizers of the Grant County Candidates Forum, including Jamie Baker and the Williamstown Cable Department. In 2020, the general election is held on Tuesday, November 8th. The polls are open from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. on Election Day. Plus, we have 3 days of early voting for anyone who wants to come out and vote during those 3 days. You do not need an excuse to early vote. The early voting is held right here at the Grant County Public Library on Barnes Road in Williamstown on Thursday, November 3rd, Friday, November 4th, and the times for those 2 days is 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. and Saturday, November 5th from 8 a.m. until 4 p.m. On Election Day, November 8th, you may select the vote center that is most convenient for you. You can vote at Crittenden Mount Zion Elementary School cafeteria, Grant County High School gym, Mason Corinth Elementary School gym, and Williamstown High School gym. In-person absentee voting for qualified voters is available on November 26th, 27th, 28th, 31st, and November 1st and 2nd at the Grant County Clerk's Office during our normal business hours of 8:30 a.m. to 4 p.m. To request a mail-in absentee ballot, these ballots can be sent to voters who qualify. You can do that by calling our office at 859-824-3321 and selecting option 4, or make your request online at govote.ky.gov. The Grant County Board of Elections will have election results scrolling in the waiting room of the Grant County Clerk's Office at the start of Close the Polls on election night. The results will be available on our website at grantcountyclerk.org or on our Facebook page. We do want to caution you this election. Normally, we are one of the first in the state to have our results up and ready. This election, we have numerous write-in candidates who are already certified. It will take us a longer amount of time to tabulate the results for write-in candidates, as we have to look at every single write-in that's on a ballot. So please be patient with us on election night. We are very grateful for the hospitality that are shown to us from Grant County and Williamstown schools and the Grant County Public Library. I'm grateful to our dedicated election officers, many of whom are in the room this evening, and to the Grant County Road Department, the deputy clerks of the county clerk's office, and our Board of Election members. Additionally, I'd like to take a moment to debunk speculations about our election equipment used not only in Grant County, but also in many of our Kentucky counties. Our machines and our tabulating equipment do not connect to the internet in any way, and they are also not networked. We have laws in place in Kentucky to protect our elections from this kind of fraud. It is my priority to ensure that our equipment is reliable and accurate. Every ballot in Grant County has a paper backup. So if we have an issue, we can easily get a court order, open the machine, and count the paper. Our machines are certified and inspected multiple times before the election. In fact, our bipartisan County Board of Elections performs accuracy testing and manual inspections prior to every election, which Kentucky law mandates. I do want to take a moment to discuss your ballot that you will be receiving during the general election. It is a two-sided ballot this election that's printed on legal paper. Please be sure to review both sides of your ballot. If you cast your ballot without reviewing both sides and you cast it as it is, we cannot let you vote again. So it's important to review both sides of the ballot. The second side of the ballot will have 2 constitutional amendments for every ballot that appears in Grant County. So we want to be sure that you understand the constitutional amendments prior to coming to vote. Election officers, deputy county clerks, or any other voter cannot explain the constitutional amendments, as that could appear as electioneering or influencing a voter, which Kentucky law prohibits. So if they refuse to give you a detailed explanation about the questions, they're not being rude or lazy. They're actually upholding Kentucky law. A sample composite ballot is also available on our website. Now, I have a challenge for each of you in this room and those of you who are viewing at home. I would like for you to invite 3 people that don't normally vote to come out and vote this election. It will increase our voter turnout in Grant County, which is so important to our electoral process. We tend to be on the lower spectrum of meeting the statewide voter turnout average, so I'd like to see us in the top half of Kentucky counties this election to have a great showing so that we can show not only Grant County, but all Kentuckians that here in Grant County, we care about the electoral process and we want our freedom protected. Thank you for your time this evening.
Thank you, Tabitha. And now we're going to get the forum underway. Participants in this forum represent only local candidates in contested races. This event is designed to give the voters of Grant County insight in how the candidates stand on local issues. The questions were gathered from the public and created by myself. Candidates were not given a copy of these questions prior to the forum tonight. The Chamber is nonpartisan and does not endorse any particular candidate. Chamber membership is open to elected officials, business owners, nonprofit organizations, and individuals. Some of the candidates participating in this forum are Chamber members, but they were not privy to the questions prior to tonight. Our first race will be Kentucky Court of Appeals, 6th Judicial District, Division 2, and there are 2 candidates for this position, and one of them is with us this evening, Suzanne Citrullo, and Robert A. Winters, Jr., her opponent, could not be here this evening. And just to let you know what the rules are, all the candidates have been informed that all answers should be directed to the audience, but not to an opponent. Direct attacks or name-calling will not be permitted. Each candidate will be asked 3 to 4 questions and have 90 seconds to respond. Each candidate will be given 2 minutes to make an opening and a closing statement. If any of the basic ground rules are broken, I will stop the forum and remind the candidates of the rules. If a candidate fails to comply, they will be escorted from the stage. So this means they only receive 1 warning, but I already talked to them, and they've assured me they're going to be on their best behavior tonight. So come on in. Again, there are 2 candidates for the Kentucky Court of Appeals, 6th District, Division 2, Suzanne Citrullo and Robert A. Winter, Jr. Welcome, Mrs. Citrullo. You will have 2 minutes to make an opening statement.
All right, thank you. First of all, I want to thank the Grant County Chamber of Commerce for doing this. I got to come in the spring, and there were a lot more candidates and races then and a bigger crowd, but I've been trying to come as much as I can to Grant County. I actually live in Kenton County, and I'm running in 13 counties, so I've met a lot of you, but I look forward to meeting more of you over the coming years. I hope that I'm serving as your Court of Appeals judge. So I've been your judge for a year. Last year, I had what I call a full circle moment. I had practiced law for 32 years. My husband and I started our own firm. I had a successful trial practice. But before that, I had worked right out of law school for the first woman ever on the Kentucky Court of Appeals. And she was my mentor and hero. And when she died, I went into practice. So last year, the current judge, Judge Joy Kramer, decided to retire early. And it gave me a chance to go back to the court that I love and the court where it started my career. And I am here as your judge on the Court of Appeals because I was then one of 15 applicants who put my name in for an appointment. and I was selected by a bipartisan committee, a statewide committee that determined me to be the most experienced and qualified person for that role. I love being your Court of Appeals judge. I love going back to this court that I care so much about, and I believe I'm the best person for the job. I would very much ask for your vote on November 8th so that I can keep that job as your judge with a funny name, Judge Suzanne Citrullo.
All right. First question. What characteristic do you consider the most important for a judge on the Kentucky Court of Appeals to have? And please explain your answer.
It's probably not what you would think of, but organization is a big, important characteristic. The Court of Appeals is not your typical trial court. You guys are going to hear later from family court candidates, for example. You've got a big family court race here in Grant County. Circuit judges and family court judges have to make decisions very quickly. The Court of Appeals reviews trials and family court decisions from the entire state. That's why most of you probably don't know much about it, because you're never in that court. But we review briefs, we review the trial record, we have to research the law, write opinions, and we have very little time to do that because we get new cases every month. So it's quite a caseload. You have to be very efficient, very organized. I have great trial experience from 32 years of practice, and I have the experience of previously working in this court as a staff attorney 7 years back in the 1980s. So I think that makes me uniquely qualified to continue serving as your Court of Appeals judge. I've kept up with the load. We haven't fallen behind once, even though I have to be a politician this year and run to keep my seat.
Next question. In the profile form you submitted, you indicated that the public should have trust in the court system. Are there specific ways that you believe trust could be established? And please share your ideas.
That's a really good question. I actually read something just this week, and some of you might have seen it too, that said the public trust in the judiciary is just very low. I'm not sure how that happened. Again, I started my career right out of law school in the 1980s working for a judge that I just admired so much. I didn't know her political party affiliation. I worked for another judge. I didn't know his party affiliation. I practiced law for 32 years and did not know the party affiliation of any of the judges because our Constitution says that judicial races are nonpartisan. So I think the fact that our society has become so much more partisan, we all think, oh, well, what are you, Democrat or Republican, tends to make us lose trust in the judiciary. But again, I believe that it's important that we have trust in the judiciary, and I'm very committed to trying to gain that back as your judge. I'm doing open oral arguments, inviting the public to come as much as possible because that gives you a chance to see the kind of cases that we're deciding. Again, we need to be prompt with our decisions because by the time a case gets through an appeal, people have waited a long time and they deserve to have resolution of their case as soon as possible.
If the voters choose you, what will be your top priority?
Well, again, because I'm fortunate enough and blessed to be serving as your judge for the past year, I just want to continue doing what I'm doing. I want to continue to have oral arguments where the public can come and hear the cases, and I get to go out into the state, which is what the court used to do a lot more of. I think COVID affected that, and so that's part of why we need to bring that back. We need to be prompt. We need to make sure that the public understands, what the court does and the importance, again, of reputation and experience and independence on that court so that everybody knows that they're getting their fair day and their justice that they deserve from the Court of Appeals.
Thank you. And now you have 2 minutes for your closing statement.
I'm a mom, a grandma, a wife of 38 years. We've raised our 3 children here in northern Kentucky. Obviously, that's my greatest accomplishment, but I'm proud of the fact that I've been recommended by the Northern Kentuckians for the Judiciary, which is a nonpartisan group that selects judges and recommends to the public who should serve as your judicial candidates. I've been endorsed by the statewide FOP. I have the support of over 450 attorneys and retired judges, circuit clerks, and court staff across the entire Commonwealth. And I know the public, again, most of you voters are never in a courtroom, so you don't know how to judge a judge, but those are the things that matter. Talk to people who know, and I think if you do that, then you'll find that I am the best person for this job, and I very much and humbly ask for your vote on November 8th so that I can keep serving you as your Court of Appeals judge.
Voters will choose between two candidates, Suzanne Citrullo and Robert A. Winters Jr., on Tuesday, November 8th. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
And our next race will be Kentucky Supreme Court for the 6th District. There are two candidates, Michelle Keller and Joseph Fisher. Welcome, Ms. Keller.
Thank you, Jamie.
You'll have 2 minutes for your opening statement.
Thank you. I'd like to thank the Chamber of Commerce, Jamie, for moderating this, the Public Library for hosting. I'm Michelle Keller. It's been the greatest privilege of my adult life to serve as your Supreme Court Justice. I've served the citizens of Grant and the other counties in my district for the last 16 years, 10 on the Supreme Court, and before that, 6 on the Court of Appeals. I'm local to the area. My mother's family's from Pendleton County. My father's family is from Kenton County. I'm the oldest of 5 children. I'm married to Jim for 36 years. He's in the audience somewhere. I see him now. He's here with me tonight. We've raised our 2 daughters here in this district. They've gone away to college and law school and graduate school, and they've come back here to live and work in Kentucky, and we're really, really excited about that. I worked my way through law school at night as a VA nurse in the ICU. I'm a former prosecutor. I'm endorsed by the FOP, and I have some other important endorsements, including the Northern Kentuckians for the judiciary. Veterans issues have been important to me since I served as a nurse at the VA Medical Center, and as a justice on the court, I've devoted time to developing and assisting our veterans treatment courts and other programs for veterans. I'd like to also say that as a judge, we're guided by both the Constitution and the statutes and court rules of the Commonwealth of Kentucky, as well as the United States of America. I took an oath to uphold those and apply those fairly and impartially, and that's what I've been doing for the last 16 years. I'm going to ask tonight that you all allow me to continue to serve you as your Supreme Court Justice, and I'll reserve time.
Thank you. Speaking of Kentucky's Constitution, which establishes that judges are nonpartisan, but recently there have been efforts to politicize the courts. If elected, how would you ensure that you remain nonpartisan?
I think it's important that our judicial elections remain nonpartisan. Section 117 of the Kentucky Constitution calls for the election of all judges at every level to be on the nonpartisan ballot. And the reason for this is that everyone should be equal in the eyes of the law. Courts should be fair and impartial, and no one's political party, their gender, their race, their color, their creed, their religion, their sexual orientation, none of that should come into play when you're standing before the courts. I've been that fair and impartial judge. I've been noted as a fair and impartial judge. I was Judge of the Year in 2020 by the Kentucky Bar Association, and I believe that justice is blind. There's a reason that Lady Justice is wearing a blindfold. We've run this race in a nonpartisan manner, as I've run the prior 2 races that I've run here in Grant County. And I think how someone runs for the office and the work ethic and the rules they abide by gives you an idea what they'll be like in the office. I'm committed to the nonpartisan nature of this job and all the judges in the judiciary.
And if the voters choose you, what will be your top priority?
My top priority is to continue to serve the citizens in a fair and unbiased manner. But there's a lot of things that we're doing at the Court of Justice that are good for Grant County. One thing is the new family court seat that we have here, and you'll hear from those candidates later today. I am really proud that over the last 5 years I've fought hard to bring family court here to Grant, Carroll, and Owen because I believe the citizens deserve that, and that's one of the things I was able to help accomplish as your Supreme Court Justice. Judges really can't make promises, but we can work hard for the betterment of our community to make sure also that our citizens have access to the courts. I'm currently the chair of the State Access to Justice Commission, and the mission of that group is to make sure that people who might not be able to access the courts due to cultural or socioeconomic or whatever barriers they may have will be able to access the Court of Justice when need be. So I'm proud of that work on the Access to Justice Commission as well. There are a lot of things that your Supreme Court does on a day-to-day basis, working with your court clerks and your judges to keep things safe and operating in your local courthouses, and I'll continue to be involved in doing that if reelected.
And what characteristic do you consider the most important for a judge on the Kentucky Supreme Court to have? And please explain your answer.
I think it's more than one characteristic, if I may. First of all, I think experience. A judge must be experienced and competent in the law. In my almost 16 years, I've written nearly 1,000 legal opinions. I also think, as we've mentioned before, it's extremely important to be fair and impartial. You should treat everyone equally. Judges are the referee. We're calling the balls and the strikes. We need to be fair to everyone. Compassion is sometimes necessary for a judge. A judge should know when to put the hammer down, but a judge should also know when to be compassionate, and that comes with experience. And the last trait is courage. It's not easy to be a judge at any level, and a judge must follow the law, apply it to the facts, and render the result that that calls for. And oftentimes that result might be something different than the judge personally feels is what they would prefer. That doesn't matter. It's what the law says that counts. And sometimes that result is something that comes with great public scrutiny. Judges must be courageous.
And you now have 2 minutes for your closing statement.
Thank you, Jamie. Just once again, I want to thank you all for being here and for the audience that will be listening later, as I know this is being recorded. Because you're interested in the candidates here tonight shows that you're interested in your local government here in Grant County, and that's important to all of us. We're all public servants here. It's not easy to run for office, and I know that you all know that, and I know that the families of the candidates know that. So keep us in your thoughts and prayers as we move forward to Election Day. I am so privileged to have this job. I'll be leaving Sunday night to go to Frankfurt for a week. Our court sits there at the state capitol, 7 justices from around the Commonwealth. We come from different regions, we are different genders, we are different political parties, but we are there to do the people's work. And we will sit next week, all week long, doing the people's work, and then I will come back home to Northern Kentucky. That is what we do every month, month in and month out. The Supreme Court is there 12 months a year, 365 days a year if needed. I have a commitment to public service. I have a commitment to being a judge. It's not that we are politicians in the traditional sense, but we must run for office. So it's important to remember that we're on the nonpartisan part of the ballot, down at the bottom part, and that you look for the judicial races. You have important judicial races here in Grant County. So please be educated on those races. I also want to say, before I'm finished, that faith and family are some of the most important things to me. This has been the greatest privilege to serve you all as your Supreme Court Justice. I've twice taken the constitutional oath to uphold the laws of Kentucky and the United States. I hope that you'll re-elect me on or before November 8th, and that I am able to take that constitutional oath for a third time as your justice on the Kentucky Supreme Court. Thank you so much.
And voters will be choosing between two candidates, Michelle Keller and Joseph Fisher, on Tuesday, November 8th. Our next race is for state representative of the 61st District, but neither candidate could be with us this evening. Debbie Lucas Angel did call me earlier today and expressed that she is ill and unable to attend according to doctor's orders. So she did plan to be here, but was ill at the last minute. So we'll move on to the Dry Ridge City Council race. There are 7 candidates for 6 seats, and we have 2 of those with us this evening. If they haven't snuck out the back, maybe. I see them coming, so they didn't sneak out, so. Come on in. There will be 7 candidates on the ballot for 6 seats, and those include Ashley Brinker, Allison Brashear, Eric Brockman, Kenny Edmondson, Carissa Hewitt, Jim Hendy, and William Webb. And we have Kenny Edmondson and Ashley Brinker with us this evening. Thank you both for being here. We'll start with opening statements. Ashley, you have 2 minutes for an opening statement.
Great, thank you, Jamie. So I am Ashley Brinker. I am running for my 3rd term, I hope my 3rd term, with the Dry Ridge City Council. I originally started with the Dry Ridge City Council in 2019, and I secured a seat then. It's been an honor. I've grown up in Dry Ridge my entire life, and so when I serve the community, it's not me serving on my behalf. I'm serving for the community. And so I've really enjoyed it, and I hope to have the opportunity to do it again. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Edmondson, you have 2 minutes for an opening statement.
My name is Kenny Edmondson. Actually been on city council since 2000. I took about a 6-month break from the passing of Clay Crupper. I came back on in city council, and I've been on there for, I guess, 3 terms now after that. So I've been on there probably 25, 26 years now. Currently live in Dry Ridge. Been in Dry Ridge since 1974. My wife and I has opened up our own business in Dry Ridge. Just want to see the city grow, continue to grow, try to get the central business district going back and going again. I know that, appreciate the vote, November the 8th. Thank you.
Mr. Edmondson, we'll start with you.
No, you don't want to start with that.
We want to start
Well,
with
we're
Ken.
going to anyway. So what do you see as the top 2 pressing issues in this race, and how would you address them?
Well, fire and EMS, that's top. I'm going to give a shout out to Greg Brockman, the mayor, for getting EMS and Dry Ridge Fire Department straightened out. The other cities helping, fiscal court. I think it's going to remain to be our big thing that we need to do. Other thing is getting business in. We were talking back in the back, it's going to be hard to get business in when we can't get people to work. So that's going to be one of the main goals I can see in the city right now.
And Ms. Brinker, what sets you apart from other candidates seeking this office?
You can count on me. You know, I'm here tonight, and I plan on being there just as I've been since 2019. Anytime there's an opportunity to serve, I'm one of the first. Well, I say one of the first. I don't know if I necessarily am, but I definitely hope that I am reaching out in a timely manner to say, what do you need? What can I do? How can I fit in to make sure that our needs are met and to serve our community?
Mr. Edmondson, same question. What sets you apart from the other candidates seeking office?
Ditto. I mean, I'm
We're
here.
here.
I'm here tonight. like I said, I've grew up in this county. I've grew up in this city. People out there, they know me. You know, you come to the city council, you got a problem, come to me. I'll go through my steps to get the problem solved. And that's what I want to continue to do it. Nobody's perfect. None of us are perfect, but I will try to get problems solved. And I agree with Ashley on that one. She done good.
Okay, Mrs. Brinker, what do you see as the top two pressing issues in the city, and how would you address them?
You know, just having served since 2019, definitely growth has been a very big opportunity and obstacle for us because we are going through growing pains, and they're very exciting. But with that also comes a lot of responsibility to make sure that we're doing it correctly, to make sure that we're doing it in a responsible way that represents our history, but also our future. But also, you know, when we talk about growing, you forget about the other things that go along with it, like infrastructure and even, like Kenny had mentioned, EMS. That has been one of our big headaches. We want to make sure that our community is protected and safe, and they have the tools and assets to make sure they are protected and safe. But also in the same breath, too, we want to make sure that the people that are coming to our community as we are growing, they have those same opportunities as well. And they can call Grant County a place they want to be at, too.
Okay. And that follows along with the next question. Ms. Brinker, this is for you. Quality of life issues like parks, recreation, adequate infrastructure are what has been identified as reasons people choose to live or move to a particular community. How do you rate Dry Ridge's quality of life, and what do you propose to improve or change if elected?
You know, I've actually seen that improve. I really have. I've lived in Dry Ridge since, I think my mom and dad moved in '86. And so I've been in Dry Ridge pretty much my entire life. I was born in '84, so if that tells you anything, how long I've been here. So I've definitely seen the community grow in a positive way. Anybody that wants to say negatively that they haven't seen that, they're not behind the scenes seeing what's going on, or they're not asking questions. We love to answer the questions. Come to us, find out what's going on, give us your ideas. If you see a need that we might not have seen, you know, we want to address it. So I definitely am seeing improvements. You know, when we talk about our park, this spring, we're going to be putting in new playground equipment. I'm so excited about that because the old equipment was put in when I was in 8th grade. So that's going to be great to have a new playground equipment. And that's been a big obstacle to get to because we haven't had that opportunity. So I hope that the community really enjoys that.
And Mr. Edmondson, same question. Quality of life issues like parks, recreation, adequate infrastructure are what has been identified as reasons people choose to move to a particular community. How do you rate Dry Ridge's quality of life, and what do you propose to improve or change if elected?
I can't wait to see Ashley get on the monkey bars.
I'll do it. You want me to, I'll do it. Not in a dress.
The park, you know, like I said, we are going to put new playground stuff in the park. That is coming up, handicap accessible. We're looking at every direction we can go. I think people are coming to the city of Dry Ridge. Number one, we've got another motel going up. Airbnbs are taking off in a humongous way, and we have to thank the ARC for that. You know, I think the quality of life in Dry Ridge, I don't know, maybe I'm partial, but I don't want to move to Florence. I don't want to move to out nowhere, you know. The quality of life in Dry Ridge is there. Everything's accessible in Dry Ridge. You know, we have plenty of stuff. I just got my 30 seconds notice, so I'll shut up now.
All right, Mr. Edmondson, what are some of Dry Ridge's infrastructure needs, and how would you address them if reelected?
Infrastructure needs? Well, the motels is infrastructure for the ARC. I hope that we don't have to go down the road of infrastructure on sewer and water. You know, we do have some old stuff. We're going to have to be doing some work on that. We are upgrading pump stations. Some of the major stuff and that stuff is coming along. I think we're right on line. I mean, we have come out with a 246 plan that Greg and City Administrator Ken Little has come up with, and the council has sit down and went through the 246 plan, and we know what direction we got to go. And we know that, you know, if we need to order stuff and we can't get it, times are tough to get stuff in right now. We're 24 months to 36 months out to get fire equipment or whatever we need. So I think we're right on schedule. I personally do.
And Ms. Brinker, same question. What are some of Dry Ridge's infrastructure needs, and how would you address them if reelected?
You know, as I mentioned earlier, growing pains. So we are finding some of these infrastructure needs as they happen, but we're addressing them as quickly as possible. So like when Kenny mentioned about the pump stations, we do have a new, 2 new grinders. You wouldn't believe the stuff that gets flushed. And stuff that goes in toilets that shouldn't, or down sinks or drains that shouldn't. But we are addressing that because we know that more is coming to the community, and we want to make it a safe community. And that's actually a health safety issue if that's not addressed. So we're addressing needs as they happen. Infrastructurally, I feel like we're right on track because we are thinking for the future. And as things come forward, we're trying to prepare for the future. And in doing so, I feel like we're growing in the right way. And as those infrastructure things come up, we're financing things. I shouldn't say financing, that's not the right word. We're fiscally being aware of how to prepare for these things. And we're going in a good direction, I hope.
And now you both will have 2 minutes for your closing statement. Mr. Edmondson, we'll start with you.
You always start with me. Okay, I'm not going to repeat myself. You know, like I said, I've been on the council for 24 years. People know me. If you like me, vote for me on the 8th. You know, we're dedicated. The ones that we have on council right now are dedicated council members. I think we are respected council members. I just hope that we can continue to do the job that the city taxpayers are wanting us to do. So I appreciate the time y'all listen to us. Come out and give us a vote. Thank you.
Ms. Brinker, you have 2 minutes for a closing statement.
Thank you. Ditto.
And thanks for the chamber for letting us do this.
Yes. You know, I love Dry Ridge. It's been my home since I was a child, and so I've thoroughly enjoyed my opportunity to serve the community, and I hope to continue to get that opportunity. As needs come up, I hope that the community knows you can come to me. I'm working for you. I'm not working for me. I'm working for you. And so let's work together. If I'm given that opportunity, you know, I don't want to count my eggs before they're hatched, but I'm thankful for what I've already had, and I hope to continue to serve Dry Ridge and continue to work along with the growth that Dry Ridge is already on path to make happen. So thank you so much for having us tonight. I really appreciate it.
Thank you both for being here.
We appreciate it. Thank you, Jamie.
Voters will be choosing 6 of 7 candidates for Dry Ridge City Council, and these include Ashley Brinker, Kenny Edmondson, Allison Brashear, Carissa Hewitt, Jim Hindy, Eric Brockman, and William Webb. Our next race will be Williamstown Mayor, and we have 3 candidates for that race. There are 3 candidates for Williamstown Mayor, and they are Ronnie Maines, Wade Gutman, and Mark Christopher. Welcome tonight, gentlemen. You'll each have 2 minutes for your opening statement. Mr. Maines, we'll start with you.
My name's Ronnie Maines. I'm married to Brenda Maines. I have 3 sons, Brian, Curtis, Alston, 3 granddaughters, and 1 grandson. And I work at DHL, as a mechanic. I've traveled all over the United States with them. I've been there 35 years. That's pretty well it for right now.
Okay. Mr. Christopher, you have 2 minutes for an opening statement.
Who is Mark Christopher? That seems to be the question everybody asks here at Williamstown. So I want to tell you a little bit about me. My mother is Robin Doyle. I'm married to my best friend, Hannah. We have a 3-year-old. His name is Charlie. And we have another soon-to-be expected on the way. We're very excited, due at any moment. A little bit about me. I graduated from Community Christian Academy, top of my class, valedictorian. Wasn't that impressive. There was only 5 of us. I got my first job at age 15 when I walked into Classic Country when I was 6.7. I asked for a job and they said, sure, kid, come back in 2 months, which I figured was a polite way to just shoot me out the door because I was 15, let's be honest. And I was persistent and I ended up getting the job. I worked there for 17 years before I ended up leaving. I actually left the country to go be a missionary in Honduras through a Christian organization based out of Frankfort, Kentucky called Sparrow Missions. And I did some missionary work for a while. I came back and married my now wife. And in the spirit of me always trying to dive in head first, go give it my all, and learn something new, 4 years ago I decided to start my own business where I make the world's one and only arrowhead-shaped guitar picks. It's been pretty successful. I got a design on it and I got a patent on it. And I'm in 18 stores across the United States and I ship worldwide.
Mr. Gutman, you have 2 minutes for an opening
Are you allowed
statement.
to stand up?
That's what I wanted to know.
Well, if you want to, I guess you can stand
I'd
up.
rather stand up when I speak. But, I can see everybody then. Lifelong resident of Greene County, 50-plus year resident of Williamstown. Started my first job in Williamstown out of high school. Then went to Cincinnati and got a job with Hartford Insurance Company. Spent about 5 years there in the underwriting department. I was lucky enough to get a job at the airlines with an airline called Piedmont Aviation. A lot of you may not recognize that, but it was one of the small local service companies. Spent 30 years with Piedmont and retired. Actually bought out, which I was glad. I was ready to get out. And came back to Williamstown, which I still lived in Williamstown then, and commuted, and was offered a job at the Chamber of Commerce, and I gladly accepted that. Spent 20 years plus with the Chamber of Commerce and Industrial Development Authority. Also, I've been involved with planning and zoning for several years, still chairman of the Board of Adjustments for Greene County. I was on the Greene County Deposit Bank Board and vice president for about approximately 17 years. And a lot of few other things that I won't bore you with, but a lot of things I've done. 30 seconds I've got. I can tell you about my baseball team. We had one of the best, I think Keith Kinman's, is he still here? Yeah, I used to beat him to death all the time on the baseball field with Williamstown Bucks. I enjoyed that as much as anything, and I have 3 children. One lives still in Williamstown, one in Dry Ridge, and one in Carrollton. And my wife passed away 2 years ago. So that's my story, and I'm sticking
Thank
to
you.
it. Thank you.
And we'll get into questions now. Mr. Maines, the first question is to you. You indicated on your profile form that you believe you could keep Williamstown moving forward by increasing tourism and new businesses in the city. What are your specific plans to accomplish this?
Well, my plans are for the COVID hit. I got with some restaurants and, and then that hit, but I'm going back after them to get that. And the city is in good shape financial. The last 2 mayors, Glenn Caldwell and Rick Skinner, and all the other people involved in the city, everything looks good, And I'm nervous, but I was on the city council. I've been on the city council for 4 years in January. So, and like I said, I'm planning on going out, talking to people, Well, I talk to people, they want restaurants, they want this, like a Chick-fil-A, a steakhouse, and I've talked to a lot of them and found out ways to get it in here, to get them in here.
Thank you. Mr. Gutman, on your profile form, you stated that providing the best services at reasonable cost was one of the reasons you decided to run for mayor. How do you balance those two when cost of services continues to increase?
I get a tough question, didn't I? That's a question that's hard to answer, and a lot of those is dictated by the federal government. We have a choice of signing short-term contracts or long-term contracts with utility company, power, electricity, and those are things that have to be researched very diligently. If you don't research, you sometimes get pinned down to rates that you can't afford the public to pay. We want Williamstown to be able to attract new citizens. We need people that want to move to Williamstown, not move away from Williamstown. I know we've got a resurgence downtown where the local landscape's changing all the time. Luckily, we have some private investors that are doing that. It makes the city look vibrant and growing again, but we still need, it'd be a comfortable place to live, an affordable place to live, and we can attract people that also may be working in Lexington or Cincinnati but want to live in a rural atmosphere like Williamstown has.
Mr. Christopher, you indicated on your profile form that it's no secret that Williamstown is growing. How do you propose to balance growth and the demand for more services?
I feel like there is plenty of opportunity to provide unique services to the citizens of the town. I think you do a great job at the tourism. I think the Arc brings in 1 million people a year, but I also feel like we have to focus on providing opportunities for our citizens here, because short-term people that are coming here for the Arc just get to come in, visit, and then leave. But we have to have unique services that are provided for the town's people itself. Things like Marigold Day. I don't know if you guys remember Marigold Day. I grew up going to Marigold Day. I think things like that, opportunities for the businesses that are within the community to shine and grow, should be highlighted. And also, I feel like we should take pride and ownership in that and provide opportunities for the citizens to be a part of something big and unique and bring it more into a hometown community feeling.
Mr. Gutman, what do you see as the most pressing issue facing you if elected as mayor, and how do you plan to address it?
Well, the most pressing issue, and it always is in small communities like ours, excuse me, the most pressing issue is infrastructure. You're constantly trying to catch up all the time with infrastructure. We're going to be unable to build new subdivisions, new industry, or if we don't have the infrastructure to take care of it. And I know we seem like we sit back on our hands and say, well, we've got right now plenty of infrastructure. But I worked in the business of recruiting industry for 20 years, and I can tell you that more people don't come because you're not ready for them to locate here because you don't have the infrastructure for it. So that is the biggest point you can have for a growing community is be ahead, not status quo and right behind or barely even. You have to be ready for new growth. And you do that by planning ahead and implement those plans now, not 5 years from now. Not when Toyota or somebody wants to build a plant here and we don't have the water or we don't have the sewerage or whatever it is. So that's the answer to that question.
Mr. Maines, what do you see as the most pressing issue facing you if elected as mayor, and how do you plan to address it?
Well, in the water, sewer, we got all that. The zoning is some of the, finding land, having it zoned, and ready for these new businesses to come in. because there's some problems on the zoning, and the county's working on it, the city's working on it. Everything's in the right direction. We got it. We just got to keep forward going. Yeah.
And Mr. Christopher, what do you see as the most pressing issue facing you if elected as mayor, and how would you plan to address it?
Well, I have to agree with both of these gentlemen. I think growth is very important. I think Mr. Gutman made a valid point when he said you can't wait 5 years for this. At the same, at the same time, I think our current mayor, Mr. Rick Skinnert, has done a great job at building that so far. And part of my platform is to continue the growth that he has done. There's a lot that he has in the mix that is in works, but will not be completed by the time he leaves office. And so I feel like the first most important thing is to see those things through to their fruition. And that would be my first priority, is to focus on what he is leaving for the next mayor, and then we continue to build.
Mr. Maines, do you have specific projects or plans on how you would collaborate with the county and other cities if you are elected as Williamstown's next mayor? Please explain.
Yeah, there'd be some things, work with the county, the officials, the, fire, police, and, it's just like the events we have, to, communicate with the citizens, not just the city of Williamstown, the whole county, of festivals and, different things going on. And, everybody gets a water bill, and put a newsletter, we talked about it before, the city, where, everybody's educated on what's going on in the county and the city. So, tonight, there's a lot of people said, I didn't know it. Yeah. And the festival, I didn't know it. We need just communication's what it is,
Mr. Christopher, some voters may say that because of your age, you lack experience in running a city with its own utilities, a budget of $17 million between the general fund and utility fund, and 46 full-time employees. How do you respond to that?
First off, I would like to start by saying I'm 35 years old. I'm old enough to run for the President of the United States, so I feel like I'm not that young. Secondly, I have a lot of amazing people that are on my team and on my side as the mayor, as if I were the mayor, that guide me and coach me through. Let's be honest, Vivian Link is the treasurer, and nothing gets passed without her. So luckily, I have a lot of people that I can talk to and learn from. That being said, I had no idea how to start and run and operate my own business making handmade guitar picks. And now I'm in 18 stores, and I ship all around the entire world. And that is a process that I didn't know how to do. I don't think there's a place to go to college to be the mayor. That's not a degree you follow to get into. And I didn't understand what I was doing when I had started my company 4 years ago. But I've learned, and I've grown, and I've put in the time and dedication and commitment to master how to do that successfully. And I've continued to grow that company. And that's the way I would view the term as mayor.
And Mr. Gutman, how would you describe your management style?
Honest. I treat every employee the same. My management skills, I think, were developed at Piedmont Aviation, which I was, excuse me, I was a shift manager, had 30 to 40 people working under me all the time in all phases of aviation. I also was a director of the Grant County Bank, which not actively supervising, but doing things that affected employees. And I think employees should all be treated the same, and that's the way my management skills worked at the Piedmont for almost 30 years. I had no problems ever with the home office. Al Shuttlecotti was the only person I ever had any trouble with. And he was going to have me fired, but I had him arrested, so, by the airport police. Otherwise, I think I have no problem with management. I'm going to be fair with employees, and I think they should be treated the same as other employees as other cities. I think if we pay a fireman so much money here or there, it should be the same. If we have police making money at Florence, we should make that much money in Williamstown. I know a lot of people may not want to hear that, but I think they're pretty close
Thank
now
you.
anyway.
Thank you.
All right.
Mr. Christopher, how would you describe your management style?
Slow and willing to learn. That sounds silly. Like I said, when I was 15, when I got the job at the radio station, and I knew nothing about that job, and they took a chance. And I never wanted to let that guy down, my boss, but I always was never satisfied with what I knew. And I learned and I learned and I learned and I learned every aspect that I could. And one day he called me in his office and gave me a management position, which at some point there were college age people that were taking internships and I was teaching them how to do this job. So as far as my management skills go, I like to learn every aspect of what the job entails. And I love asking people, hey, what is your advice? Hey, what is your advice? I met with Officer Steve Corman, the chief of police, earlier today, and I just sat and I listened to his feedback. And it would be one where I would listen and take in what the city employees have to say and do and go from there.
And Mr. Maines, how would you describe your management style?
Well, you know, when I was growing up, I worked at gas stations. I more or less managed the gas stations at a young age, and because there was nobody there, you know. And I, you know, had my own wrecker service, and I loved doing it. You know, I'd done it here in Williamstown, and I took and working 24/7, just don't get it. So I started at DHL and worked there about a year, and then started traveling all over the United States because we used to do documents and letters, and we had to get into the air freight because that's where it's at today. You just can't do the letters and the documents. The computers took it, and then I was sent out to outstations to, you know, set up the equipment for bigger aircraft, and I, you know, done it for years. I went to Canada, I went to Mexico, I went all over the United States doing this, and they trusted me, you know, and I took and then 9/11 hit, and that end of it, because I was in New York the night before 9/11, and then that was, you know, they wouldn't let us jump seat no more in the aircraft.
Right. And Mr. Christopher, do you plan to build on what utilities the city currently has, or do you have other plans or ideas for what lies ahead concerning utilities for the city of Williamstown?
That's a great question. First, I have to say, being a small town, I take pride in the fact that our utilities are our own. If there is an issue and the power is out, if we give that up, right, then we may call a big company, and there may be power outages all over northern Kentucky, and they may not focus on Williamstown. But if the power's out here in Williamstown, somebody that already works with the electric company is going to know about it. And you better bet that they're going to be on it. So we have to take pride and ownership in the fact that our utilities is ran by us for our town. So I want to continue that growth, and I want to see that our town succeed in the way that this is ours. We take ownership because it's ours. We don't give that power up. We don't let a huge conglomerate energy company come in. We don't let a huge water plant come in. We get to take care of this ourselves. And we have to continue to build off of that. That takes time, that's slow, but I think it needs to stay here and within the community.
Mr. Maines, same question. Do you plan to build on what utilities the city currently has, or do you have other plans or ideas for what lies ahead concerning utilities?
No, utilities is here to stay. I mean, we got a great teams, you know, water, sewer, electric, street, you know, and cable. I mean, we do a good job, and just like Mark was saying, that, you know, you call them and you know who's coming to your house or fix the utilities. I mean, we got it. We don't need to get rid of it, and it employs our citizens too. Yeah.
Mr. Gutman, same question. Do you plan to build on what utilities the city currently has, or do you have other plans or ideas for what lies ahead concerning utilities?
I have no plans to change anything that's operating now, I think there needs to be an assessment of what our needs are. How can we reach those needs with not a cost to the citizens of Williamstown? I do think we've got a very capable utilities department. They do a great job. I have no problem with anything they've ever done in Williamstown. Our only problem is the lake, which it only has so much capacity to it. And that's one thing that we're going to have to address, maybe not in our lifetime here now, but if we're going to keep the city vibrant and growing, we're going to have to search for another water supply sooner or later, probably sooner, especially if we're trying to locate a major industry in Grant County.
And this will be the last question, gentlemen, and this was submitted from the public. And we'll start with Mr. Maines. Mayor Rick Skinner has been one of the key persons in keeping the Barnes Road Railroad crossing open. What are your thoughts and proposed action on keeping the crossing open, or are there other options?
Well, I go across it every day, and if they close it, I would miss it a lot. You know, I know it's dangerous. I've, about had a lot of wrecks there, and there has been wrecks there. But, there's talks about, like shutting it down, but we need to get together and see if there's another way to put a roundabout, back it up. I mean, I've thought in my mind how to do it, but I think some of the people in the city, county, we need to gather together to see if there's something there. I mean, because, you shut it down and we're either going to have to go into town or around by Tractor Supply.
Okay. Mr. Gutman, same question. Mayor Skinner has been one of the key persons in keeping that Barnes Railroad crossing open. What are your thoughts and proposed action on keeping it open, or are there other options?
There probably are other options. Right now, keeping it, that's been a political football back and forth for several years on closing that crossing. The railroad would like to have it closed tomorrow, but it does, like Mr. Maines said, it does create certain access to places quicker than other people could get to them. The main concerns I would have is the safety aspect of it. And a lot of times people don't realize they can go on through with the light. They want to stop right in the middle of the intersection when they get across the railroad tracks. It's dangerous, but I don't see any more danger to it than the one at McDonald's in Dry Ridge. When you can't turn left, you can only turn right. So I think we can live with it for a while till it's time to redesign the road through there.
Mr. Christopher, same question. What are your thoughts and proposed action on keeping the Barnes Road Railroad crossing open, or are there other options?
Well, I definitely think there are other options to explore. I am aware that if you have a student who is going to Williamstown High School, you'd have to either go by the funeral home or all the way to the Baton Rouge roundabout by Ruler Foods. So that does present an issue, getting your students to and from school. That being said, a few weeks ago, there was a major wreck out there that was in the Grant County newspaper, and I actually happened to be there shortly after it happened. I didn't know what was going on, but I had seen that. I think as our town grows and tourism grows, a lot of people are coming in that aren't aware that that's a stop sign, not to focus at the light, but you go forward a little bit. If you're coming through on the other side, there is no stop sign. So I feel like that is tricky. We need to hire development to come in and say, okay, what can we do? What are our options? But also work with the railroad company to see what would work best. I do feel like as Williamstown grows and develops, there's going to be a lot more opportunity, and that is something that will have to be addressed at some point sooner or later.
All right. Gentlemen, you will now have 2 minutes for your closing statements. Mr. Gutman, we'll start with you.
Well, first of all, thank the Chamber for doing the forum. I was involved with many of those for 20 years. And also the two other candidates. It's great to have a choice. And what we need in this country is a choice. And I appreciate them stepping out and making that choice to run for mayor of Williamstown. What I failed to address, and I'll address it because I hear this all the time from my friends, say, you're too old to run. What do you want to run for mayor for? And I said, well, number one, I want to see Williamstown grow like it's growing now under this previous administration. Number two is I plan to live a whole lot longer than you think I'm going to, evidently. So I think I've got time on my hands that I can devote to the job. And I also feel like that the city, I can do anything the city needs done and then be transparent about it. Whatever I say was what I mean, and what I mean won't be detrimental to anybody else's lifestyle. That I'll be for the citizens first, and I'll be transparent about it. And I think people that know me in here that I work with will verify that. Thank you.
Mr. Christopher, 2 minutes for your closing statement.
Well, first, I want to say thanks for this amazing opportunity. Ever since I decided to run for mayor, I have seen so much growth within myself. I've learned things that I didn't know before. I've got to meet with a lot of amazing people. And whether I win or lose this election, whether I'm the Williamstown's next mayor or not, I feel like I've already won. I feel like I've already grown and matured a lot. I've spent a lot of time with our current mayor, Rick Skinner, learning about the job. I've met with a ton of different superintendents. I've learned various aspects of what their jobs are. I've learned about my city in ways that I could have never even imagined. And I feel like I'm walking away proud of myself for this. Secondly, I also feel like, lost my train of thought there. You know, I'm grateful for this opportunity. I got to meet a lot of amazing people, going door to door, knocking on strangers' houses and saying, hey, I'm Mark Christopher, here's a garbage bag, because that's part of my campaign. I give people a garbage bag to throw my political stuff away. It is what it is. I've listened, I've sat with people. People have invited me into their homes. I've shared stories with them. I've heard memories of how they grew up, what Williamstown used to look like, what Williamstown used to be like. One guy invited me to play guitar with him, so I got to play a little bit of guitar. One guy even gave me scotch. I had scotch. We're going door to door. But this was an amazing opportunity, and one that I'm truly thankful for that I got to have. And I feel like I'm walking away a better person for just doing this. I also want to thank Jamie Baker for always putting this on. Give her a round of applause. She does an amazing job. Thank you very much.
Mr. Maines, you have 2 minutes for a closing statement.
Well, I want to thank you, Jamie, and the Chamber of Commerce and the Williamstown Cable and everybody behind the scenes that put this on. And I just want to say that, you know, I get emotional when I talk about Williamstown because we're, you know, a lot of people don't know it. We're ranked 5, the safest city in the state of Kentucky, and that's good, you know. I've had chances to move away from Williamstown, you know, ABX. We went to Wilmington, DHL for 4 years, and I stayed in a camper 3 nights a week, 10-hour days up there, but I didn't, and my kids, they didn't want to leave Williamstown, you know, and it's a great place to, you know, for your kids and stuff, and we got a lot of houses, you know, going on that people get on the roads, and, you know, that's what we need, more housing, more people in here, you know, citizens, and, you know, I've talked a lot, I ain't talked to all of them, but everybody loves this. Nobody said they hate this town, you know. And like I say, I want to see the city move in the right direction. I mean, it's there. I mean, you know, we went through the COVID, you know, I was wondering about it. A lot of cities did not make it, you know. And with the team we had and the employees and the city council and Rick Skinner, you know, and you know, Glenn Caldwell, he had it set up. Now Rick's got it set up for the new mayor, whoever comes in. And it's going to be a great thing, you know.
Thank you, gentlemen, for being here this evening. Voters will be choosing between these 3 candidates, Ronnie Maines, Wade Gutman, and Mark Christopher, on November 8th. And last but not least, we will have our candidates for Family Court Judge for the 15th Judicial District. This is an exciting time for Grant, Carroll, and Owen counties, as for the first time, we will have a family court judge. So we welcome these candidates. They are Casey Cheeseman, Julie Scott Jernigan, and John Brent Threkold. Welcome this evening. We'll start with opening statements. Mr. Threkold, you have 2 minutes to make an opening statement.
Thank you, Jamie, and the Chamber for hosting this event. I'm John Brent Threkold. I was born and raised in Grant County. I graduated from Williamstown High School in 1981. From Northern Kentucky University in 1987, and Ohio Northern's Pettit College of Law in 1990. I've been admitted to practice in law in the Commonwealth of Kentucky since May of 1991. And I think that's what is the important thing that we need to focus on in this election. Experience matters. I have a broad range of experience that I can take to the bench. When I was in college, I worked midnight to 8 as an emergency dispatcher for the fire departments and the police departments. As a lawyer, I have been a court-appointed guardian ad litem serving the children and families in distress in Grant County for 20-plus years. I have represented numerous individuals in divorce cases. I've been involved in complex litigation, including but not limited to a Racketeering, Influenced, and Corrupt Organizations Act case back about 15 years ago. So it's a broad base of experience that I would take to the bench, and it is the ability to be patient, to listen to people's causes, and to treat everybody equally and fairly in order to apply the law to do what's in the best interest of the families and children in this circuit. Thank you.
Okay. Ms. Cheeseman, you have 2 minutes for an opening statement.
Thank you. I want to thank everyone for coming out tonight. We really appreciate you taking the time to hear us out on these issues. This is a really important position. Thank you, Chamber, for putting on the event. My name is Casey Cheeseman. I'm one of the 3 candidates running for Family Court Judge. I was born and raised in Grant County. I am currently a resident of Williamstown. I live there with my husband, Jacob Cheeseman, who is a teacher at Williamstown Schools, and our 2 daughters, Nora, who is 6, and Lilas, who's 4. I'm currently a practicing attorney in Williamstown. I started my legal career back in high school. I actually started co-oping with a local attorney, Rita Ferguson, and so she developed my passion for this area of law, and I've remained in that. I have been an attorney for 8 years. I'm currently in a law office with Steve Howe, and I do exclusively family law. Over the last several years, probably 4 years, I have primarily developed my practice to be just family law. It's something that I've become really passionate about. I think finding meaning in your work is important. If you don't love what you do, then you're certainly not going to be happy. So out of all the areas that I practice in, I really enjoyed family law. It's what I kept getting referrals for, and I think that's because I listen to people. I take their cases very seriously, that they've trusted me to help them with matters that are most important to them with their family. So throughout this judicial district alone in the last 2 years, I've appeared on 144 different cases throughout Carroll, Grant, and Owen, just family law, and I've made over 340 appearances before the court. So I have a lot of family law practice. I'm not running for a position. I'm running for this position because it's what my experience is in, and it's what I love doing. Thank you.
Ms. Jernigan, you have 2 minutes for an opening statement.
Hello, saving the best for last. If I'm too loud or too close to the microphone, somebody wave at me. I tend to get a little bit squeaky when I'm nervous. I'm Julie Scott Jernigan. I live in Grant County, have always lived in Grant County, excepting about 6 years where I ran away to Covington. Sorry about that, I came home. I have been a licensed practicing attorney for 18 years. Before I was an attorney, I was a school teacher here in Grant County for a couple of years. And a lot of people who look at my experience ask me how I've managed to do so much in a relatively short period of time. I did teach school while I was in college, but way back in the 90s, you could get that emergency certification and you could teach during the day and go to class at night. So that's what I did. Then I went straight to law school and I worked, I've been working with families, for more than 20 years, starting when I was a school teacher. And it was that experience, being a teacher, that led me to law school, because there are so many things that teachers see that they can't do anything about. So my goal is to do the best that we can for our kids, because our kids are really, they're what matter. Healthy, happy kids become healthy, happy adults, become productive members of society, and I think that's what we need now more than ever. Ms. Cheeseman said it, but I will say it again, I am not running for a position. I am not running against either of these two people. I am running for family court. I'm running to be the judge who takes care of the kids, who will protect them and stand up for them, protect their rights, and help them get the happy, healthy futures that they deserve. Thank you.
We'll start with our first question. Ms. Cheeseman, this is to you. What do you see as the most pressing issue in this race, and how would you address it?
Well, I think the most pressing issue, as far as the race concerned, is making sure that somebody gets in this position that's qualified for that. I think that this is really, I don't think people understand the gravity of this race that we're currently in. This position will be filled for 8 years, which is a long term compared to a lot of races. So you're going to have somebody in this position that is taking care of our families and children for the next 8 years. That person has to be, I think, well respected within the legal community. They have to have the ability to work with numerous individuals. That includes the cabinet, other attorneys, the other judges in our district. And so you want someone that is going to bring a cohesive effort to that environment. And I think I can do that. I've done that in my practice. I think that I've developed a very strong reputation for being fair and trusted. Everyone that deals with me knows that this is what I'm passionate about. So I think that's probably the most important issue currently, is making sure that people are aware of how important this position will be.
And Ms. Jernigan, the same question. What do you see as the most pressing issue in this race, and how would you address it?
I think we need to look past the race as a competition and really consider what we're talking about. Every child that is 10 right now, for the next 8 years, that child could come before this judge. Every divorce that's heard for the next 8 years will come before this judge. All your child support, the domestic violence cases, that's a lot of people. That's a lot of hurting, broken people who are going to come in front of this judge. And I think we need to keep in mind that, compassion is hugely important. The cohesive effort that Casey mentioned, because it will involve a lot of moving parts. It will involve a whole lot of people working together. And if we don't have that cooperation, it's just going to make it that much harder for our kiddos.
And Mr. Threckle, same question. What do you see as the most pressing issue in this race, and how would you address it?
Well, 31 years of experience practicing in front of federal courts, state courts, family law courts is important. And the most pressing issue that we will have is as the family court takes all of the issues that deal with the families. In July of this year, we asked the Domestic Relations Commissioner for a court date. We get something in October. That's the thing that we need to keep focus on. We need to focus on how do we help the families in the most efficient manner that we can in order to make their lives better. Everybody in this room would have to agree when somebody's going through a divorce, they're not having a good day. The longer that divorce drags on, the harder it is for them, the harder it is for their children, the harder it is for everybody involved. So the sooner that we can have those hearings with the limited resources that we have, the better off the families and the children and the circuit will be. So it is getting the time to hear those cases. Thank you, Jamie.
And Mr. Threkel, this question will start with you. What sets you apart from the other candidates seeking to be the first family court judge for Grant, Carroll, and Owen counties?
Was born and raised in Grant County. I have 31 years of legal experience. That's going to be very important. As we've pointed out time and time again, this family court will deal with the issues of the family in this circuit, and whoever is elected will be the judge for the next 8 years. Experience matters. And as I have been a court-appointed guardian representing moms, dads, and children in dependency, neglect, and abuse cases, I have represented moms and fathers in domestic violence cases. And I've represented, I can't tell you, I can't look at the palm of my hand and tell you that in the last year I've been in court 115 times. I don't keep track of that. I keep track of, have I helped my clients? Are my clients satisfied? What you look at is how do you help your clients? You listen to your clients, and that's what a judge has to do. We're given time to speak up here, and as a judge, you're mostly quiet, and it is the ability to listen that is going to be very important when you apply fact to law, because if you don't listen, you're not going to know the facts and the stories of those families. Thank you.
Ms. Cheeseman, what sets you apart from the other candidates seeking to be the first family court judge for Grant, Carroll, and Owen counties?
This is what I do. I do family law day in and day out. That's all I'm currently doing at this point, and that's a choice that I made. I think it is important to consider not only age is not the same thing as experience, and I hope that people understand that. I think it is important how much you've been in court. If you're an attorney or if you've had any experience in the legal field, you don't learn anything in law school. The experience is grown by being in the courtroom, by representing folks, and being involved in a number of different cases. And these 3 counties that this judicial race covers, I have been in this court, I said the numbers before, over 350 times in the last 2 years on 144 different cases. That's nearly, I think Mr. Threkold's been in front of the family court in these 3 jurisdictions. On the domestic relations court 15 times and has made 20 to 30 appearances. So I am doing a bigger volume of family court than anyone else. That has given me a lot of experience by doing that, by being in the courtroom, by seeing the issues. Not only do I practice in these 3 counties, but I've had the ability to practice in Harrison, Pendleton, Kenton, Boone. I've been in a number of family courts, and so I've seen the benefits that those other courts have. I've seen the things that are not adequate and that could be better done. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Jernigan, what sets you apart from other candidates seeking to be the first family court judge?
A number of things, quite frankly. But again, I want to remind everybody, I'm not running against Ms. Cheeseman or Mr. Threkold. I'm running for this job. That being said, I think we have to focus on the type of experience, not just the numbers of experience. And I mean no slight, that wasn't intended in a negative way. But I'm the only candidate who's been a prosecutor. I prosecuted those child abuse and child neglect cases here in Grant County for about 5.5 years. Did hundreds upon hundreds of those in that 5.5 years. I was your child support office manager here in Grant County for 5.5 years. So, it's not just one type of law. This court will hear divorces, adoptions, child support, child abuse, child neglect, child support. There's a number of things that come in here. And just having one type of experience and saying that qualifies me, that's not enough. That's not what our kids deserve. So if you will look at my experience, if you haven't gotten one of my little cards in your door, you soon will. I think you'll see that I have the most broad-based experience of any of the other candidates. So thank you.
Ms. Jernigan, this question will start with you. How would you describe your organizational skills and management style?
Well, as I said, I was a prosecutor. I've run the child support office. Management skills and organizational style, you have to hire good people. This is too big a job for any one person to do alone. This judge will have an office staff of at least 3 people. So hiring good people who will support you, who understand that none of us is perfect, all of us have weaknesses, and just hiring those people that will come fill in some of those blanks for you. I think that's what we need to depend upon, and also relying on our clerks. You know, our clerks and our deputy clerks, they're the experts in how court is supposed to run, in how the dockets are supposed to run, what documents need to be done, things of that nature. So I hope that answers your question. But I really believe any organization is about hiring the right people to support each other.
Mr. Threkel, how would you describe your organizational skills and management style?
Well, when I graduated from law school, my father and I started Threkel and Threkel. And I had the pleasure of being able to practice law with my father for approximately 20 years. The last 10 years, I have run my own office. I've run my business. I understand how to organize case files, I understand how to organize time in order that I may give my clients the most time that I possibly can at any given moment. And the thing is, with this court, as Julie pointed out, the clerks are going to help aid and assist you a whole lot because they're going to they have a limited staff. So those are the things that you have to figure out, is how to deal with the limited staff so that you can hear the cases that are important. And family law cases are extremely important. It's not about volumes of cases. It is, what have you done for your clients? If you've made 100 court appearances, perhaps you just did it all wrong and didn't settle a case. So the things that you have to deal with are what's in the best interest of that family, and that's what the judge is going to do, is sit up there and make those decisions. Thank you.
Okay. Ms. Cheeseman, how would you describe your organizational skills and management style?
I believe that you have to be organized. You have to have good management skills in order to maintain a volume of cases. I've developed one of the most voluminous family court practices in these 3 counties, and family law, the uniqueness about family law is you never know what issue is going to come through your door. Every case is different. The sense of urgency is different. Sometimes there's emergencies. Sometimes things are important, but they can wait behind other cases. And so I think being able to successfully manage, which is indicated by my continuous growth of my business, being able to successfully manage those cases is important and will be important in this position. What I've just listed that I've appeared on is a fraction of the cases that this court will hear. They are going to have to manage a large volume of cases, and they are going to have to be able to restrict access to their dockets based on need. That is hugely important, and I think the experience that I have in being able to manage the cases that I have done and the volume of cases that I have done at a single time has helped me prepare for this position.
Mr. Threkel, we'll start with the last question to you. What characteristic do you see as the most important for a family court judge to possess? Please explain your answer.
I think it would be patience. I think that's probably the most important quality. I can give an example because the judge said I'll never let him live it down. But one of those things that you learn is judges too have bad days. I was appointed to represent a family in juvenile sessions. The judge made some rulings that I didn't agree with, so I stood back up and objected, to which the judge said, "Mr. Threkel, are you even in this case?" To which I responded, "Yes, Judge, you appointed me about 2 minutes ago." So when I protected my clients at that point, juvenile sessions is closed. Before the next family could come back in, I was addressed by the court, and it was, "I'm sorry, I yelled at you a moment ago." To which I responded, "That's okay, Judge, you just made me feel like I was at home." But it's the patience in remembering that those people are having a worse day than you as a judge are ever going to have. Thank you.
Ms. Cheeseman, what characteristic do you see as the most important for a family court judge to possess? And please explain your answer.
I think that I would probably say compassion, which somewhat goes hand in hand with patience. You are dealing with people oftentimes in the very most vulnerable state of their lives. It is, if you are dealing with your children, that's very important to obviously most people. And so you have to be compassionate. You have to understand that there are reasons things happen. This may be an isolated event that you're seeing in front of you, and that may not necessarily be their character. So you have to be compassionate. You have to give the people the time to explain themselves, explain their stories, listen to what has happened, and understand where they're coming from.
And Ms. Jernigan, what characteristic do you see as the most important for a family court judge to possess? Please explain.
I'm really lucky that I'm the third one on this question, because they've all said really, really wonderful things, but I personally believe that the most important characteristic is courage. This job is going to take a whole lot of courage. There's going to be some really nasty things that are going to come before the court, and you have to have the backbone to stand up and say, yes, no, you're going to have to make decisions that affect people for the rest of their lives. And understanding that, realizing that, accepting that you're going to lose sleep over some of those decisions, that's going to take a whole lot of courage.
Thank you. Well, now we'll move into closing statements. You'll have 2 minutes. Ms. Cheeseman, we'll start with you.
Thank you. I just want to thank everyone again for coming out tonight and taking the time to participate in this. It is deeply appreciated. I, again, want to just remind people how important this position is. This person will be on the bench for 8 years. They will deal with a number of children. They will deal with a number of families in our community. And I think it's important that people remember, although you think, I have a lot of people say it to me when I come to their doors, I don't plan on ever being in front of you. You might be. And if not you, a friend, a neighbor, a family member, there's going to be somebody in your community that is impacted by this position. I have the experience. I have family law experience. I do this day in and day out, and it's because I want to do that. It's because that is what I enjoy doing. It's what I love doing, and I'd like to continue to do that. So I would appreciate everyone certainly considering me for this position. I would be more than honored to serve as the first family court judge for Carroll, Grant, and Owen counties.
Ms. Jernigan, you have 2 minutes for a closing statement.
Thank you. And again, it's been said repeatedly, but I'll say it again. Thank you all for coming. Thanks for taking the time to educate yourself about what this position is and what it means, and about the three of us. I know there's a whole lot of work that goes in the backgrounds that nobody sees to plan these events. So thank you to Jamie and to the Chamber, to Williamstown Cable for doing the work that they do to publicize these things. I personally believe that this is the single most important job in our county. Because, not to be cliche, but the children are our future. They literally are the future. And making sure that they have the best, most qualified person hearing their cases and making decisions about what's best for them, we really can't overstate the importance of that. So I wish you all a good evening. Thank you again for tuning in, and I would appreciate your vote on November the 8th.
Mr. Threkel, 2 minutes for a closing statement.
Thank you, Jamie. Thank you again to the Chamber. Thank you, ladies. Thank you all in the audience for coming. It is very important, and it makes all of us as candidates feel better that people will actually come to see us for a moment to try and make up their minds. But one of the things that we must remember, the family law judge is not there to judge anyone. The family law judge is there to listen to their story, to understand their story in order to apply the facts of that particular case to the law and make a decision that is in the best interest of each family and their children if children are involved. And when we talk about experience, we're not going to pigeonhole anybody. The more experience you've had in various other branches of the law are probably going to be necessary, or are going to be necessary as well as somebody that says, I just do family law. Well, what do they know about real estate? What are the real estate issues that are going to come up in a family law practice? Because, in a divorce, everybody's got, a lot of them have real estate. Some of them own corporations. You have to understand the taxes. You have to understand how the corporations work. There are a lot of issues that come before a family court judge. Think about everything you have in your house and how it's going to be divided. That's one way you could look at what the family court's going to do. But the family court also has to hear the terrible cases, the dependency and the neglect and abuse cases. And I have given my time for 25 years to help aid and assist those families. And certainly on November the 8th, one candidate has the experience to do this job. And I would certainly appreciate your help and your vote in November. Thank you.
This concludes tonight's 2022 Meet the Candidates Forum, sponsored by the Grant County Chamber of Commerce. I want to especially thank Roy Osborne and the Williamstown Cable Department, Pat Goodman and the Grant County Public Library for allowing us to meet here, This forum will be rebroadcast on Williamstown's local access channel, which is Channel 16, and on Spectrum Channel 186 on October 22nd and October 23rd, and on November 5th and November 6th at 7 p.m. If you have questions about voting or where to vote, call the clerk's office at 859-824-3321. It is important for each and every citizen to exercise their right and privilege to vote in the November 8th election. And you'll hear me say this often. I think I've said it every time we've done a forum, and I'm not going to tell you how long that is because that might tell my age, and I'm just really 29. But exercising your right to vote is important because those elected do set the course for Grant County for the next several years. Every race is important, and every vote counts. Thank you all very much.